everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my first book haul of 2021. I am not really that shocked that we're here already and that I'm hauling 27 books, or the fact that I have another book order on the way. 2, in fact, that will add another 7 books to my TBR. But that's okay because we're still in this panorama of bananas, so treat yourself, right? I also have been tracking my books that I've bought and which ones were pre-orders. Those are all the blue lines that you can see that I ordered last year, and I'm excited to dive into this. So we're gonna go in the order that I bought them. The first book that I hauled in 2021 was an order that I ordered at the end of 2020, and that is The City We Became. It was this one as well as one that comes up a little bit later because that one came in like a week after this one did. So this is a sci-fi, I guess is the best way to say it, kind of a weird sci-fi that I have already read. I read this right away in 2021 because I was very excited about it, and I absolutely loved this. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It's like an urban sci-fi, I guess, but also really high sci-fi because it deals with the city of New York and the fact that all these people who live in New York, there's 5 people, are the embodiment of each of the boroughs of New York, and then there's one guy who is all of New York City, and they have to basically fight off this bad guy who's come to destroy the city of New York. You know, very weird. Lovely, N.K. Jemisin could do no wrong. Seriously, so good. But that was the first one. Then I ordered and received Terry Pratchett's The Reaper Man. I ordered this specifically because it was my friend's book club pick for January. I read this one as well, and I believe I gave this one 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it was like probably the best Terry Pratchett that I could have started with, but you know, we gotta start in Discworld somewhere, I guess. And it does intrigue me enough to maybe one day continue in the Discworld. I'm not entirely sure, but this is basically one of the death narratives in the Discworld. It follows death, and what if death died? Basically, it's fun. The next one that I have here is also from that City We Became order, and that is The Blue Castle by Ella Montgomery. This is a wonderful, wonderful classic that I have already read, and I absolutely adored it. So it is about Valency, who basically finds out one day that she has a year to live, and so she decides to completely change her life and finally live for the first time in her 29 years. So she also falls in love in this, and it's beautiful, and the nature, impeccable. Loved it. I gave this one 4 stars, I do believe. Loved it. We're off to a good start. All of these first books on my haul I have already read, so this is great. But the next one that I have here is probably one of my favorite reads of 2021 so far, and that is Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long, by Hannah Long. This book is next level. It is a fantasy standalone about a woman who is caught between 2 worlds of the gods, like the new gods and the old gods, and she is basically the last person of her kind, the last one of her warrior priestesses, because that's what she is. She's a warrior priestess. She has an axe. It's very nature-based and set up in the mountains. Vikings, women with axes. Read it, it's fantastic, and we're getting a companion novel to it next year. I'm very excited. I believe I gave this one 4.5 stars, by the way. I think I gave that one 4.5 stars when I read it. Loved it. The next one that I hauled was also a pre-order. So this one was my first pre-order of 2021, and then Pet was my second pre-order of 2021. They came in at the same time. This was the pre-order for the paperback because the hardback has already been released well over a year. So I wanted the paperback version of this book, and I have already read it because it was my pick for book club in February, and I really, really enjoyed this. I originally rated it 5 stars, but like upon reflection and book club, I think it's more of a 4.5 star, but that's fine. It's still beautiful, and it follows the story of Jam, who is a trans girl in this really utopian world where monsters have all been eradicated. But then one day Jam's mom paints a being and Jam brings it to life, and it says that it is there to hunt down a monster. And so Jam must come to terms with the fact that there are still monsters in her world. It is beautifully written. Beautifully written. It is a very young YA. I would say it reads almost middle grade-esque. The next one I found at a thrift store, and when I saw this one at a thrift store, I got so ridiculously excited because my friend has been trying to get myself and all of us, all of our friend group, to read this book for so long, and I'm planning on reading it this month because it is part of a video that I'm filming. But that is Here There Be Dragons by James A. Owen. So this is the first book in the Chronicles of the Imaginarium Geographica. That's what it says there. It is a historical fantasy novel with dragons. That is literally all I know about it, but I'm excited to dive in. The next one that I have hauled on my bookshelves is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I intended to read this in February, but my February TBR was long and I just never got to it, but it is still sitting on my TBR shelf because I'm determined to get to it soon because I just think it's going to be a wonderful YA book. So it is a YA story about a girl who, in her world, if you bleed gold, that means you are not pure. So she's terrified to go through this ceremony because she's unsure whether she's going to bleed gold or not. She bleeds gold, and she's given the option either to be ostracized by her village and just, you know, hated on, or to become a warrior for the, like, emperor or something. That's all I know, and I'm excited to read it. I am truly excited to read it, and this whole cover is just stunning. I love the yellow and blue combination. It's beautiful. The next one is a book, again, that I have already read. This one specifically I was a proofreader for. It is Can't Catch My Breath by my lovely friend here, Sarah Sutton. I absolutely loved this book. So it is a YA romance, but a little bit more hard-hitting than her other three that she has out so far. This deals with grief and Addie Arden, who has lost her father in a car accident. And in this, she ends up being paired with Vincent Castello for a class project, but Vincent Castello, his dad was the other car in the car accident and was paralyzed by this accident, so they have baggage and they fall in love. It's cute. It's very cute and very good and broke my heart in places. And you all need to go pick up Sarah's books because they are so good. Honestly, like, honest to God, so, so, so good. All right, so the next group of books, these next three, I bought when I went to a bookstore for the first time since like October of last year. I decided to go in and just treat myself, and I went to my favorite bookstore here, which is McNally Robinson, and I just absolutely love it in there. I spent like 3 hours in that store, just like ambling around and picking out books. And so I have read all 3 of them. Oh my goodness, I have read all 3 of these too, which is awesome. 2 of them are also Canadian, which is amazing. But the first one is Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. I read this throughout the month of March and I finished it in early April, and I really liked this. This is like a D&D campaign, but in a book form. So we have this group of old men who used to be a like campaigning party who would go out and defeat monsters and all that kind of stuff. Since then they've settled down and had lives and like married and had children, but one day one of these guys comes to the main character Clay and is like, hey, my daughter is missing, I need you to help me find her. And so they get the gang back together, and it is so funny and so tropey, and I love it so much. I had a great time. I gave this one 4 stars. It was super funny, and if you're looking for a really quick, super lighthearted, easy fantasy read, go with that one. It is fantastic. And then I also picked up The Centaur's Wife by Amanda Leduc. I read this one in March too and really, really liked it. It is a weird apocalyptic story. So it starts off as like a typical Canadian apocalyptic story. Our main character Heather, who's just had her twins in a hospital, and then the world is suddenly hit by a bunch of meteors and it turns into a firestorm. And it's left this mountainside town to try and come together and survive in this aftermath with no power, with no connection to the outside world, kind of a thing. And then it turns into a fairy tale by the end of it. It is really cool and it's really good, and I gave it 4 stars when I read it. And then the last one in that shopping trip I also read, and I also read it in March, and that is The Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk. This is a Victorian fantasy novel with romance. So it's basically like Bridgerton, but fantasy. And so we have Beatrice Claiborne, who all she wants is to have her magic, and she does not want to get married because she wants to become a full magi. And in this world, women cannot do that because women are meant to be married and have children. And to have children in this world, you need to be collared, which technically protects you from spirits who might possibly possess your child and turn them into spirit-born, but it also completely shuts down your magic. So it is a very kind of typical Victorian society that we know today, just with magic, which is awesome. And I really enjoyed this. I gave this one 4.5 stars. And it's another Canadian one. Canadians, they're doing so much. The next 4 books are all sci-fi, and I ordered them all at the same time after I finished filming my reading sci-fi for 2 weeks straight, that one, reading out of my comfort zone video, and I went and I ordered 4 sci-fi books off of a website because it was a massive sale, and I am very excited about all of these. So the first one is Escaping Exodus by Nikki Drayden. So this one is basically just, I don't know, space opera. I really know nothing about it. I just know that apparently it's supposed to be really good. And then there's also Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez, and apparently this one is really, really funny, which I am here for. I'm always here for funny books. This one, the tagline on the front says, "Kidnappers, alien emperors, psychic cats, and she's out of coffee." So really, I'm down. And also there's cats on the cover in little places. We love to see it. It's amazing. And then I picked up Space Opera by Catherine M. Valente. This one, this cover is super shiny and super like space galactic-y. Again, I'm assuming it's a space opera since it's called Space Opera. And one of the taglines in the back says, "Big ideas written in glitter," so I'm here for it. And then the last one I picked up was Blackfish City by Sam J. Miller. And this one is a little bit different because it says on the front, surprisingly heartwarming, action-packed science fiction thriller. So I'm excited about it. The next one was yet another pre-order, and that is Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. This book is a chunky boy, and I am excited to read it. I am always a little wary going into new Cassandra Clare books because, man, her books, I don't mind like length of books a whole lot. Really don't find them troubling at all to get through. I've read like Way of Kings and stuff like that and Game of Thrones. 1,000-page books don't daunt me at all. I just mean that the fact that she has been writing in this world for more than 14 books now. I think it's got to be upwards of, there are currently 14 canonical texts plus all the other stuff that she's done with like co-writers and in like her anthologies and short stories and stuff. So she has really milked this world to death, and the angst in this world is unparalleled. And I gotta say, I've heard a lot of people say that there's like a lot of miscommunication in this, and that is my least favorite trope. But if you don't know, Chain of Iron is the second book in the Chain of Gold trilogy. The Last Hours trilogy is what she's calling it, and this is basically her 4th series in this world, 5th series in this world. And it is a continuation of the Clockwork Infernal Devices trilogy, which is my favorite trilogy that she's done, and it follows like the children of that trilogy. So there's that. The next 2 that I have here, I bought at Walmart one day. I saw them and they were on sale and I was like, these look really interesting. So I picked up The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I read the like little line at the back which says, "A Forgotten History, a Secret Network of Women, a Legacy of Poison and Revenge. Welcome to The Lost Apothecary." And I was like, yeah, let's do that. This sounds like a good time. I've heard a lot of really good things since this came out. I believe it's also her debut, which is awesome. We're always here for debut novels. And then I picked up Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers, which is another one that has been taking the book internet by storm, and I am very excited about it. I think it is more of a hard-hitting romance. Honey Girl is about a girl who is very straight-laced. She's got her PhD in astronomy, really hardworking person, and she's very much not the kind of person who would randomly get married to a stranger in Vegas, but she does just that. And she marries a beautiful woman, and they end up having to move to New York and start their lives together. So it's them falling in love. Also the fact that Grace is kind of running from her life that she had in Los Angeles, I believe. It doesn't say where she, oh, Portland. She lived in Portland before. But yeah, I've heard really good things about this and I'm excited to get to it. All right, the next one is yet another one that I have read, which is awesome, and it is a cute little middle grade called The Hatmakers by Tamsin Merchant. You guys have probably heard me talk about this on my channel. It is lovely. It is about our lovely main character named Cordelia, who lives in a world where there are 5 big families called the Makers. So we have the Hat Makers, which is Cordelia's family, the Glove Makers, the Cloak Makers, the watchmakers, and the boot makers or shoemakers or something. And they all make clothes that kind of have magical properties to them, which is really, really fun. And in this, right at the beginning, Cordelia loses her father in a shipwreck. He is lost at sea, so she believes that because he's lost, he can be found. And so she spends this book trying to find him and also trying to decode a mystery, because all of these hat makers, all of the maker families in London have been tasked by the princess to make her clothes of peace, because she's going to have peace talks with the King of France. And the mystery is these things get stolen a few nights before that they are supposed to be handed in to the princess. So it's like someone's trying to sabotage all of these maker families. And it is lovely and the writing is beautiful and I really enjoyed it. It is the younger middle grade, so the adults in this are just caricatures and everything they say is like something you would hear in a super cheesy kid movie, but it was a good time and I gave it 3.5 stars. The next one is yet another pre-order and it is The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst. Now this is another one that sounds kind of like Kings of the Wild, where it's a group of people who once were very heroic come back together again many years later to do something else, and I just am very excited about it. But this one deals with necromancy, so I'm very excited to get to it, and it is another standalone, and I love Sarah Beth Durst and her writing, especially her standalones. They just knock it out of the park. The next 3 are all classics, and I ordered them all off of Abe Books, which is my favorite place to get classics. I absolutely adore that whole site, is my favorite, and I order classics off of there very often. I actually order a lot of books off of there if I want a specific cover and edition that is no longer in print. That's my place to go. And I picked up the last 2 Jane Austen books that I was missing in this penguin style to finish out my Jane Austen collection in these kinds of books. So I needed Northanger Abbey and I needed the Lady Susan, the Watsons, and Sanditon compendium that this is. All 3 of them are in one little thing, and I'm very happy to have these on my shelves. I also picked up Anne Bronte's Agnes Grey, which was the only Bronte sister book that I was missing. I have decided to go on a journey in 2021 to read all of the Bronte sisters' works. I have previously only read Jane Eyre, which is my favorite classic. I've tried to read Wuthering Heights and only got like halfway through before I like threw it across the room, so we're gonna try it again. And we're gonna slowly make my way through the Bronte sisters repertoire. So I have this one now, and that was the last one that I was missing, so it's pretty cool. The next book was yet another pre-order, and it is beautiful, and it is in the running for my favorite cover of 2021 as so far. It is my favorite cover of 2021, and that is The Firekeepers Daughter by Angeline Boulley. So this is a YA mystery thriller set on an Ojibwe reservation. It follows our main character Donis as she is the witness to a murder, I do believe, and she becomes like a private investigator for the FBI to like help them secretly. I'm not entirely sure. I have not heard many things about it. I think the only thing I've heard about it is from Kayla from Books and Lala, and she was slightly disappointed by it because it follows like YA thriller tropes, but she reads a lot of thrillers, so I would assume that any YA thriller that she reads is not going to surprise her very much. Since I'm not very versed in thrillers, I wanted to give this a try, and it is an Own Voices Indigenous book as well, so I really wanted to get my hands on it, and I'm super excited to give this a try. Honestly, I'm very excited, and it's also picked for the Reese's book club. So, and then another pre-order came in, and it was again like Pet earlier in this video. It is a pre-order of that for the paperback, because in Canada our fantasy hardbacks are like $40, so I always wait for the paperbacks to whirl around. But this is the Boneshard Daughter by Andrea Stewart, and I have heard only good things about this fantasy book. I am so excited about it. I really don't know anything about it other than the fact that Reagan from Prue's Project really liked it when she read it last year, so that's why I ordered it, because I trust Reagan's opinions with my whole heart. All right, my friends, we have reached the last two of this video, and I am very excited to share both of these with you because one of them is probably one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and the other is one that I've been meaning to read for so long. So that one, actually the one that I've been meaning to read for a long time, is Son of a Trickster by Eden Robinson. My friend picked this for our book club pick this month. I have to get on reading this. If you don't know, Eden Robinson is a very prolific Canadian Indigenous author, and they have written just so many fantastic books. I have yet to read any of their books, but I am very excited to read this. I've heard only good things. I know nothing about it. All I know is that it also is a TV show on CBC, and when I saw the preview for it, I was terrified. So this might be a thriller. I really don't know. I'm just super excited to get into it. And then the last book, I'm so excited about this one. So it is the third Brown Sisters book that Talia Hibbert has written. You know, Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and Take a Hint, Danny Brown are the two books previously that I've read by her, and I read them both in 2020. Loved them both. Chloe Brown is my favorite of the two so far, but I'm ridiculously excited to read Eve Brown because, again, we have an enemies to lovers, we have the youngest Brown sister, we have autistic rep, we have, it's just amazing, all right? Like, I am so excited about this book. You guys have no idea, and I'm planning on picking this up in the month of April very soon because I cannot wait any longer to read this book. I'm so excited. All right, my friends, that is it. That is all. Those are all the 27 books that I've hauled so far in 2021. Woo! I'm just thinking of the book order that I just placed last night and today, and I am excited to keep adding those onto my TBR as well. But let's actually have a chat about the books that I have read out of all these 27. I've read 12 of them, but I also don't count classics towards my TBR, so technically 13 of them don't go towards my TBR number that I am adding to that number that I calculated at the beginning of the year, which was 172 unread books on my shelves. So we are adding a fair number to that, but I have also been reading my TBR this year so far, so we shall see what kind of numbers I have halfway through the year. Like I want to do, like I did last year, like a halfway through the year kind of update on all that kind of stuff. But yes, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you've stuck around. If you have, leave a little book stack emoji down below, because I have two giant book stacks next to me, and these book stacks are gonna go and vanish into my shelves now. So I will catch you in another video soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.